Hello everyone. In this video, we will be discussing Unit 3 of your research methodology paper. This is data collection and processing of data. So we have discussed what is research problem, what is review of literature, what is hypothesis, sampling. Now the next step in the research process is to collect data. So this unit will focus on how to collect data and how to process it before we step into analysis. And we have also discussed what is data itself, right? So what's the difference between data and information? Data is just raw fact, whereas information is more processed. So when we process the information, when we process the data, it becomes an information. For example, if I give you uh, a table with lots of numbers, that is just data. It is fact, but you have to analyze it, interpret it to make it an information. Okay? So now we have in this unit, we are only focusing on data. Basically, there are two types of data. One is primary data, the other one is secondary data. Primary data is when the researcher will collect the data first hand, himself or herself. So if I am doing the research on women entrepreneurs, ನಾನೇ ಎಲ್ಲ women entrepreneurs meet ಮಾಡಿ data collect ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ, that becomes primary data. What is secondary data? If I take data from somewhere else, ಬೇರೆ ಯಾರು ರಿಸರ್ಚ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿಂದ ನಾನು ಡೇಟಾ ತಗೋತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ, ಬಟ್ ಅನಾಲಿಸಿಸ್ ನಂದು. Analysis is my own, interpretation is my own, but data is taken from somewhere else, then it becomes secondary data. So we have to differentiate. At the source level, primary is original because I have taken it first hand. Secondary data is existing. It's already there. Somebody already has collected it, and I'm only taking data from there. For example, Government of India might have released data on women entrepreneurs. I'm taking data from there, but I'm analyzing it based on my research question. So it was already existing. Collection, primary data is direct because I am going and collecting it first hand. Secondary data, indirect because it was already there. When it comes to cost, primary data collection is high because if I have to meet all the women entrepreneurs across India, I have to travel, I have to spend resources. So it's costly. Secondary data, somebody has already done it, I'm just taking it. So it is cost effective. Time-wise, primary data will take a lot of time because I have to travel across India to collect data from entrepreneurs. But here it is short. I just have to look for the right secondary source where I can get the data from. Effort in terms of primary data, it is intensive because ನಾವೇ ಎಲ್ಲ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದೀವಿ. In secondary data, it is minimal. Effort ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ. See, there are so many research on women entrepreneurs. I have to look for research which is suitable for my research question. So I effort ಹಾಕ್ತೀವಿ ಬಿಟ್ರೆ collection ಗೆ effort ಹಾಕಲ್ಲ. Accuracy, primary data, it is controllable. What is accurate? ಎಷ್ಟು ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿದೆ data. Since I am only collecting the data first hand, in primary data, I can ensure the accuracy, I can control it, I can control all other factors to make sure my data is right. But in secondary data, we can't guarantee the accuracy because ಯಾರು ಕಲೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಅವ್ರು ಎಷ್ಟು ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿ ಡೇಟಾ ಕಲೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಆ ಗ್ಯಾರಂಟಿ ನಾವು ತೊಗೊಳಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ. Then comes the relevance. Primary data, it is very specific to my research question. ನನಗೆ ನನ್ನ research question ಗೊತ್ತು, ನನ್ನ variables ಗೊತ್ತು. So based on that, I will collect the data. But secondary data, it is general. For example, women entrepreneurs, other researchers might be studying other variables. They might be studying their income, they might be studying their background, they might be studying what type of business women entrepreneurs are doing. But I might be studying something completely different. For example, I might be studying health of women entrepreneurs. Okay, let's say. So that it is completely different. Hagagi, it's a very general data that is available out there, which I'm taking for my variable, my research. So relevance is not very accurate, very correct, very specific in terms of secondary data. Freshness, primary data is current. I am starting the research now, I'm collecting the data now. So it is very fresh data. But when it comes to secondary data, it can be an outdated data. That is, ಯಾರೋ 2 ವರ್ಷಕ್ಕೆ ಮುಂಚೆ ಮಾಡಿರ್ಬೋದು, 10 ವರ್ಷಕ್ಕೆ ಮುಂಚೆ ರಿಸರ್ಚ್ ಮಾಡಿರ್ಬೋದು, and I'm taking that data. So it's not, and in that 10 years, in that 2 years, probably the data can look different now. ಇವಾಗ ಅದೇ 1 ಲಕ್ಷ, ಇವಾಗ ಅದೇ 1,000 members now. If I collect data now from the same 1,000 people, data might be different. We never know. So freshness is something we need to differentiate. Control, in primary data, we have full control because we are collecting it first hand. In secondary data, we have zero control because it's already existing. purpose ಏನಕ್ಕೆ data collect ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ವಿ. In primary data, I can customize it. I can make it specific to my question and variables. But in secondary data, it's inherited. ಯಾರೋ ಮಾಡಿದರೆ, it is already existing and I am inheriting it as it is. Bias risk. In primary data, I can make sure my data is as objective and neutral as possible without any bias. Bias and selectivity. Let's say, if I am taking women entrepreneurs only from Bangalore, then I'm being selective, right? So, or only from a particular community, only one who can only speak English. Then that is bias. I am assuming that those who can't speak English are not good entrepreneurs. So, ಈ bias ಇಲ್ಲದೆ ಇರೋಂಗೆ ನಾನು primary ಡೇಟಾದಲ್ಲಿ ಕಂಟ್ರೋಲ್ ಮಾಡಬಹುದು. ಸೆಕೆಂಡರಿ ಡೇಟಾದಲ್ಲಿ ಆಗಲ್ಲ because somebody else have done and we don't know what is the bias they have in collecting data. Ownership. Primary data belongs to the researcher because we are the one who are collecting the data. Secondary data, it belongs to the third party. ಬೇರೆ ಯಾರ್ದೋ ರಿಪೋರ್ಟ್ಸ್ ಇದೆ, ಬೇರೆ ಯಾರ್ದೋ ಓನರ್ಶಿಪ್ ಇದೆ, ನಾನು ಅದನ್ನ ಬಾರೋ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ ಅಷ್ಟೇ. ಸೊ ಐ ಆಮ್ ಅ ಬಾರೋಯರ್, ಐ ಆಮ್ ನಾಟ್ ದ ಓನರ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ಡೇಟಾ. When it comes to verification, primary data, you can always go back and verify. Let's say you collect ಮಾಡಿದಿರೋ data, you have spoken to 1,000 people, ಅದ್ರಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವ್ದೋ ಒಂದೆರಡು ಡೇಟಾ ಸರಿಯಾಗಿ ಫಿಲ್ ಆಗಿಲ್ಲ, you can always call back and ask to fill them again or to verify, is this what you have filled? Nim phone number, nimdu income ide iroda, you can always cross verify. But in secondary data, that verification is not directly possible, right? Flexibility. In primary data, you have high flexibility. That is, once you start collecting data and if you see that there is some error in the questionnaire, or ನಾನು question ಕೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದೀನಿ, ನನ್ನ ಡೇಟಾಗೆ ಅರ್ಥನೇ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ, you can still change the question and flexible. You can make it more understandable to your audience. But in secondary data, that cannot happen because it's all done. You are just borrowing the complete product. Now, let us look at what are the sources of collecting primary data. So, primary data is when I collect my data first hand. But how will I collect it? That is what we mean by methods of collecting primary data or sources. The first one is called observation. What is to observe? I am observing something. Now, there is a difference between seeing and observing. Okay? Seeing is, let's say, when you are watching a movie, but you're not paying attention to it. Observation is when you carefully look at something. You pay attention and carefully look at something. That is called as observation. So, in observation again, you can either observe the language, what they are saying. That is linguistic observation. But you can also observe non-verbal. Let's say I'm doing a study on employee satisfaction in Infosys. I can go be in the office. I can stay there for a month or so and I can observe how participants are reacting to it. So I see how they talk. But see, usually nobody will directly, openly tell that they are not happy with the job, right? At least not in the office itself. So then we will have to look at their non-verbal, that is their body language. From manager karudro, how happily are they going? Log out time in the extra kelsa madbekappa. Are they doing it happily or are they irritated? Barovaga yen energy there. What is the facial expression? All this becomes non-verbal. So many times non-verbal tells us more than the verbal communication itself. Or I can be observing their extra linguistic also. What is extra linguistic? How they speak. It is not what, it is how they speak. The tone irbodu, speed irbodu, pitch irbodu. For example, manager called, and if an employee is in a hurry to finish the conversation and come out of the cabin, then we know that they are not very comfortable with the manager. This is extra linguistic, the speed in which they talk. Or are they talking in detail? Are they showing interest to talk or are they just talking answer to the point? What is the tone in which they are talking? Are they formal? Are they polite? All these are extra linguistic that we can observe. Then the spatial. Spatial is the space they maintain. Okay? Let's say if they are talking to their colleagues, very closely, very happily, the distance is less, then it genuinely means that it's a friendly atmosphere. But if they are maintaining the distance, okay, then that shows that there is a lot of formality. They are not very comfortable with the person. For example, the way you talk to your friends and the way you talk to teachers are different. The distance that you maintain, isn't it? That we can observe in employees as well. I'm just giving you example for employee satisfaction, but observation can be applied for many of the researchers. Now, this is what we observe, but there are types in observation method. One is called direct, and the other one is indirect. Direct is uh, I know what I am observing. I am there for uh, what do you say? I'm there to observe employee satisfaction. I will only observe that. That's a direct observation. Indirect observation is I am there to observe employee satisfaction, but I will also observe productivity, employability, or I will also observe the work culture. ನಾನು ಅದನ್ನಂತ ಹೋಗಿಲ್ಲ ಬಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕಾಣಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ನನಗೆ ಐ ಕಾಂಟ್ ಇಗ್ನೋರ್ ಇಟ್ ರೈಟ್ ದಟ್ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಬಿ ಇಂಡೈರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಅಬ್ಸರ್ವೇಷನ್ ಆಸ್ ವೆಲ್. Other one is participant and non-participant. Participant ಅಂದ್ರೇನು if I become one of the employee of Infosys and they do my observation, then I'm being a participant observation. But if I'm not an employee, I will stand outside the group. ನಾನು ಎಂಪ್ಲಾಯ್ ಆಗಿ ಹೋಗಲ್ಲ, ನಾನು ಸುಮ್ಮನೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿದ್ದೀನಿ, 24 ಗಂಟೆ ಅಲ್ಲೇ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ, so that I can observe. Then it is called non-participant observation. Direct, indirect, and ಇನ್ನೊಂದಾಗುತ್ತೆ. So direct is also when you are there and watching it thoroughly. Okay. But let's say I'm in Infosys, I'm observing the employees, but how much can I observe? If I'm observing one or two employees here, there are other two employees doing something else there, which I might miss on observation. But indirect is like Big Boss. Okay? They record everything and they keep watching every aspect of it. So I don't miss out on anything. I am in the hall, but somebody is talking something in the garden. But I can't observe it directly. So ನಾನು camera ಹಾಕಿ record ಮಾಡಿದೆ. Or if I audio record everybody's talk and observe, then it becomes indirect observation. So direct and indirect, participant and non-participant. Then we have structured and unstructured. Structured is where I will go with a clear-cut mind that these are the things I will observe. Okay? The employee satisfaction, so I will observe this behavior. I will observe what time they are logging in. I will observe they will, what is their expression when they receive their salary. I know what I'm going to observe. But unstructured and I will just go and see everything that is there. I will note on everything that is there. From there, I will take whatever I want. I am recording everything. That is unstructured. It can go anything, any unplanned. Whatever comes my way, I will observe it. That is called unstructured observation. So these are the types of observation. This is one way of collecting primary data. The other way is interview. You talk to a person in detail, face to face, or either through phone, and you collect data. Then it becomes interview process. So, see, questionnaire to interview in difference. Questionnaire, you will only answer to the question we have asked, and I can't, not every time I can ask a cross question, isn't it? If you fill a survey form, let's say you tell how satisfied are you, you give us a 4. Why? Because questionnaire why ಹಾಕೋದು. Let's say why you will tell, you will type that sometimes you have received wrong order. But then if I'm doing it face to face, I can cross question and say how many times have you received wrong order? Have you tried returning the product? How was the response when you tried returning the product? So there are so many things I can cross question. But in questionnaire, it doesn't happen. So interview is more in detail and in-depth information that we get. So even in interview, we have direct and indirect. Direct is either you're talking to them open directly, indirect is, or even be talking to them over the phone as well. Indirect is, I'm sorry, the infographic is wrong. Indirect adalla. Indirect is, let's say, I want to conduct a research on drug addicts. Okay. But can I get the right data from the drug addicts? Not really, because they are in their different world. I can't get the right data. So what will I do? I will talk to the family of the drug addicts and get data from them. So that is indirect. It is still primary data because I am collecting it direct, first hand. But I'm not talking to the data itself. I'm talking to the family of my data. That is called indirect interview. Or even if I am conducting a study on suicide, people who have committed suicide, there is no way I can talk to them. I will talk to friends, family, their colleagues to get information on their mental health. So then it becomes indirect data. I'm extremely sorry, the PPT is showing wrong. The infographic is wrong. So that is interview. We have direct interview, indirect interview. Direct interview, I'm talking directly to my data, either through phone or orally, face to face. Indirect is I'm not talking to my data, but I'm talking to the people associated with my data. The third method is called questionnaire. Okay? So what's a questionnaire? I ask question and you answer. So it's a set of question I have come up with to get data on my variable. That is called questionnaire. So the first questionnaire you can have structured questions, unstructured question, or we call something called guised and disguised and non-disguised at the head. Disguised andre this can happen in interview too. So let's say I want to get an information from you, but if I ask you directly, I know you will not answer it correctly. So I will ask the question in a different manner. So I will disguise the question. For example, let's say some faculty is taking you statistics paper. Then instead of asking, ask our faculty channak pata ಮಾಡ್ತಾರಾ? Then you might not say no because you are worried that faculty might feel bad ಅಥವಾ ಅವ್ರ ಕೆಲಸಕ್ಕೆ ತೊಂದರೆ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ ನೀವು ಅಂತಾನೆ ಹೇಳ್ಬೋದು. But if I ask, we are planning to change your statistics professor, how do you is that okay? And if you immediately say okay, then that's a feedback. That means you were not very happy with the previous faculty. But if you respond and say, yeah, ma'am, avare ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರಲ್ವಾ, correct? So you don't know that I'm trying to take feedback, and you think I'm asking some other question, but what I'm trying to do is actually to take feedback on that particular faculty. So then I have disguised the question. So if I ask direct questions, it is called non-disguised. But if I change the question so that you don't understand the intention behind it, then it is called disguised. Similarly, it can be structured and unstructured. I will go with 10 questions that I want to ask. Irrespective of what you answer, I will continue to ask the same question. That is structured interview or structured questionnaire. But indirect is when, unstructured is when I will only come up with the idea that I want to talk to you about employee satisfaction. But what exactly will I question? I don't plan it. I will leave it to you. Based on what you thought, I will ask the question. So then it is called unstructured question. Okay? Then in questionnaire, there are different types of questions that we ask. One is called open-ended and close-ended. Open-ended is questions like what? If I ask you what breakfast did you have today, then you can tell anything. Correct? That is open-ended. But if I ask you, did you have your breakfast? Then either you can say yes or, so there is no much option. That is called closed-ended question. So we also have dichotomic question and multiple choice question. What is dichotomous question? Di means two. So there, I give you only two options. Which app do you use? Zepto or Swiggy? I'm not even giving you another option. You have to choose one of them. I'm giving you only two options. That is dichotomous. But if I give you more than two, Zepto, Swiggy, Blinkit, Big Basket, then I'm giving you multiple choices and I'm asking you to choose one among them. That is multiple choice question. Okay, so we have open-ended, we have closed-ended, we have dichotomous question, we have multiple choice question, and we also have rating questions. Okay, we can ask you how much will you rate from 1 to 5. So this rating again we have types. One is Likert scale, other one is rating scale. Rating scale is you will rate from 1 to 5. How satisfied are you? Give us a rating. But if I ask, very satisfied, somehow satisfied, not satisfied, very disappointed, instead of giving it number, I describe the quality. Then it becomes a Likert scale. So questionnaire is one of the most commonly used primary data collection, especially now with Google Form coming in. Questionnaire is becoming more and more easy. You can just create a Google Form and send it to people across. The next type is called schedule. Okay? Schedule can have observation, interview, questionnaire, anything. So let me explain the difference between schedule and other type of observation or interview. See, in data collection process, there are three people involved. Two people maybe. One is the researcher, other one is the respondent. One who is giving me data, that person becomes a respondent. So if I'm collecting data from students become my respondent. But in between, there is somebody called enumerator. Who is an enumerator? Let's say I have to collect data from across Karnataka and I will not be able to travel across Karnataka. So what will I do? Instead of just sending a questionnaire, student I sent a questionnaire, I am not sure whether the student will genuinely fill the questionnaire. Correct. So I will train somebody from Shimoga who will travel to all colleges in Shimoga and collect data on my behalf. But that person is trained. I will tell what is the research, what is my hypothesis, what objective, how to ask questions, how to record the data. That I will tell the enumerator. So there are three people: researcher, respondent, and sometimes the enumerator in between. So when census is done, uh, people who come to our houses to collect data, they are enumerators. If you see in census, they will not give you paper and tell you fill the form for your family. They will ask us question, but they will be filling data. That is called schedule. If it ask the respondent to directly fill in the data, that's one type of collection. That is what interview or observation does or questionnaire does. But if I ask you a question, let's say in an interview, I'll ask you a question, you will talk whatever you want, but I will record the data. You are not writing it for me. I am writing it on your behalf. And I will write it in a manner which is, like I want for data analysis. Okay. So you are not filling the questionnaire yourself. I will talk to you, you will answer me, but I will write the answer in the way it is suitable for my research. Then it is called as schedule. So it can happen in observation or it can happen in interview as well. The fifth way of primary data is experiment. As you know, I can conduct an experiment and collect data myself. Then we have something called focus group. What is focus group? Let's say I have launched a product and I want people to respond on it. So I can send questionnaire and say, give me feedback, but that question, they may not genuinely fill the questionnaire. So what will I do? I will get people, let's say 6 to 10, a small crowd of people who have already used my phone. I will make everybody to sit together and I will ask them to talk to themselves about the phone. They're not talking to me. I'm not asking them questions and they're not answering. I am sitting there as an observant. I'm sitting there as a recorder of information. But they are talking amongst themselves. So they may talk about camera, they may talk about battery backup, they may talk anything. But basically they are talking to themselves. And I will be there as observant or I will only play the role of a moderator. That is, if everybody is talking only about the camera, then I will say, what do you feel about the battery life? And again, they will start discussing amongst themselves. I am not part of the discussion. That is called focus group. So in primary data collection, we have observation, we have interview, we have questionnaire, we have schedule, we have experiments, and we have focus group as well. Everywhere I am collecting data first hand. That is primary data. Now let us look into the secondary data collection, secondary sources of data. Now, what are the secondary sources? As I told, we are not collecting data ourselves, we are getting data from elsewhere. So even in secondary data, we have two types. One is published, other one is unpublished data. So what is published? Somebody would have made it available for the public. For example, census data. When government conducts a census, it is made available for the public. Anybody can access it. Then it becomes a published source. But if I take feedback from students, I am not putting it on Google, I am not making it public, it is only for my use, college use. Then it becomes an unpublished source. So in published, again, we have government publication. It can be reports, it can be documents. Let's say every year, government will give us a report on number of jobs that it has generated, number of income it has generated, and these are all given by the government. That becomes a government data. Then we also have semi-government publications. For example, BBMP will come up and with a report on number of houses that got rainwater harvesting in last 1 year. So BBMP is not a government body; it is a semi-government body, or it is a group of, let's say, trade associations, or come up with data. That is Auto Chalakara Sangha, the association for auto drivers. They will come up with some data, or association of garment factories will come up with some data. These are not from government, but these are all from trade associations. That is also published data. Or it can be research paper itself, people conducting PhD research or MPhil research, or Infosys does a research and they publish it in research journal. They are all available out there. You can, even if you go now on Google and ask for a particular research, it might be available on the websites. So any books or magazines that is published, for example, Harvard University prints a business magazine, that is a published source. Of course, not any book can become your data, because Even I can write a book. I can give some publisher a money and I can get it published. So not every book or every research paper is considered. There are certain criterias ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಇದೇ ನಂಬರ್ ಇರಬೇಕು, ಇದೇ ಗೂಗಲ್ ಸ್ಕಾಲರ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಮೆನ್ಷನ್ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೇಕು, ಈ ಜರ್ನಲ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇದ್ರೆ ಮಾತ್ರ ಕನ್ಸಿಡರ್ ಆಗ್ಬೇಕಂತೆಲ್ಲ ಕ್ರೈಟೀರಿಯಾಸ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಬಟ್ ದೇ ಆರ್ ಆಲ್ ಪಬ್ಲಿಷ್ಡ್. Research institution itself, there are certain NGOs, certain research institution which are meant to conduct research. They usually conduct research on what government has already told, and they will tell whether what government is telling is true or not. Let's say government says we have generated, 1 lakh employment in last 1 year. There might be an NGO which conducts the research and says, no, only 80,000 is generated. So such research institutions can also be considered as published sources. But there can be unpublished sources also. For example, anything that organization has used for self-use. As I told, I have taken feedback on teachers, but it is only for internal use. I am not giving it to the public. But let's say somebody is conducting a research on Gen Z teachers. Okay, they want to compare the teaching attitudes of Gen Z teachers and millennial teachers. So they come to colleges and they ask for feedback. So if I'm willing, I can give it to them. But when I give them, only researcher will use it. Again, it is not published. They will not put it on Google. Only researcher will say, in this particular college, this many Gen Z teachers are there. They will analyze and interpret the result, but they will not put the data itself out there. Okay? Or any office records. So, Infosys might be maintaining every year, it might be maintaining campus drive record. Yeah, your college So if I'm doing a research on employability, okay, ಅಥವಾ ಯಾವ ಕಾಲೇಜಲ್ಲಿ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಸ್ಟೂಡೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಎಂಪ್ಲಾಯ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಸಿಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ, then I will go to Infosys. I will ask for their campus drive, campus recruitment data, which they have maintained for internal use, and I take data from them. That is also possible. Or personal documents. So let's say I'm conducting a study on some psychological behavior or depression. So when we talk to them directly, it might not be very accurate. So we can read the diaries people have written. So yeah, somebody is going through depression, they would have documented their diaries, or even their Instagram post, their WhatsApp status. All these are personal documents, right? Or the letter, emails that they have written to somebody. That can also be considered as data. So that is under the Epstein files case. If you're following up, I don't know whether you guys are following up or not. Epstein files are going to very serious controversial case. Everything is mail. Epstein has sent mail to so many people, and each mail is now recovered and they are investigating on it. So that becomes a personal document. Or any company case records, case studies, project files, company would have done. Let's say a company has done a market survey to launch its own product. Then ನಾನು product launch ಮಾಡಬೇಕು, ನಾನು market survey ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೀನಿ, but ಅದನ್ನ ನಾನು publish ಮಾಡಿಲ್ಲ. And somebody else wants to use it and the company is fine with it, they can take it. So it's a case study, company study. These are all unpublished sources. So we can collect data either primary or secondary. Again, it depends on my research question. And in primary and secondary, there are various types. I can choose the one which is very suitable for my research question, and accordingly, I can collect data. In the next video, we will discuss how to process the data. Once we have collected, what is the next step? We will discuss that in the next video. Thank you.